Hey everybody, how's it going? So, this is a video replying to, well, this user's comments. So, let me address the first thing about the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society and other groups such that are involved in animal liberation and earth liberation. First off, I do support the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. I support their tactics. I actually had a conversation, a short communication via PMs with Propaganda Buster about this. And the conversation I had with him was actually very polite and respectable, and I would like to actually thank him for the kind dialogue that we exchanged in regarding the issue and topic of the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. And again, I support the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. I support their tactics. However, I disagree with Paul Watson's choice to allow a television crew from the Animal Planet network to come aboard their ships during their campaigns, film, edit, and then broadcast it to an international audience, because the people who watch the show, from what I've seen and from what conversations I've had with people who do watch the show, believe that by watching the show that they are somehow environmentalists themselves, because once a week they sit down on their couch, they sit down wherever the hell they are, they click on their goddamn television and they watch a television program that's been edited for TV. So, like I said, I do support the Sea Shepherd's tactics. I disagree with their decision to allow cameras from a television network on board their ships during their campaigns to document their activity, because that puts not only the ships at risk, but it also puts those volunteers at risk. Now, moving on to the other element that you mentioned, which was the ALF. The ALF is not an organization because they actually have no hierarchical structure. It's individuals, groups, going out and operating, relaying information to certain sources via certain lines of communication. Now, the Animal Liberation Front and the Earth Liberation Front has not, since their creation, directly harmed or killed a single human or non-human life. Yet the government still classifies them and other elements such as Earth First and others, even PETA falls under this category, as a domestic terrorist organization and threat group. Environmentalists and animal rights activists are seen as one of the most direct threats to domestic security and to national security in this country. Now, to me, that is pathetic, that the government fears animal rights activists and environmentalists over, Islamic extremists, Christian fundamentalists, and other more radical elements that exist in this country who are far more violent than environmentalist and animal rights activists. But after all, it is the government, and they're not, the smartest people in the bunch. Now, where I stand on direct action is this: I support direct action, because direct action is effective versus pacifism. Pacifism is symbolic. It's symbolism. It makes you feel good. It makes you think you're making a difference, that you're changing something, when in actuality you're not. It's a false sense of accomplishment. signing petitions, writing your congressman, writing your representative, holding signs out in front of a slaughterhouse, holding signs out in front of a CAFA or a factory farm, holding signs out in front of a leather store, holding signs out in front of a processing facility. Makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're accomplishing something when you're really not. It's symbolism. Through and through. And I understand why people choose the pacifistic route, because it's easier, it's less stress, there's less sacrifice needed. But for myself, I have made the choice to support direct action. I have chosen to stand by and support those who are currently being held as political prisoners for their involvement in the Earth Liberation Movement and Animal Liberation Movement, by writing letters to them, and when I get money, oftentimes it goes directly to those brothers and sisters of mine who are being held as political prisoners. That's a choice that I make, and I stand by it. Along with that came the needed sacrifice for me to break and cease all contact with my family, of which still remains. And you're probably thinking, well, why do you need to stop, corresponding with your loved ones and with your family? Don't you care about them? Yes, I do care about my family deeply, and I do love them. I love them so much that for that love, I know that this is the right thing for me to do, and they understand that. And I always ask myself one question: how many people would be willing to sacrifice the things that certain individuals have sacrificed in the name of this movement? How many people would actually be willing to sacrifice ceasing all contact with their loved ones and family? Essentially, using a means of minimalism to survive. My entire house fits on my back. I got no problem with it. I can live quite comfortably this way, because I have the skills needed to survive as a minimalist. But how many people would do and sacrifice as much as they truly could for a cause and a movement? Do I think that those holding signs out in front of a slaughterhouse will ever realize that what they're doing isn't accomplishing anything? A few of them will. A few of them will realize that pacifism is not the best route to go, and that the route that is effective is the route of direct action. But that route also comes with making personal sacrifice, of which that individual will have to weigh on whether they are able to commit to carrying out the needed sacrifices. And I always tell people, pacifism is the easy route. It doesn't take much to be involved in the pacifistic elements of the environmentalist movement or animal rights movement. It doesn't take much. You can go out, find a group, march, protest, hold signs, and chant. It's simple. You can do that, then the next day you can go to work, show up at your place of business, and get on with your normal life as a citizen of this country. But it takes a little bit more of sacrifice and dedication and heart to be involved, or to stand by those who have engaged in direct action, or even support direct action. Because these people are often the ones labeled by media as militant extremists and terrorists. Labels that often, in America, bring up the image of violence and of murder and death and intimidation. So, as I said, it is far more easier to support pacifism than it is to support direct action. But the easiest route, oftentimes, is not the most effective route. Therefore, I will always stand and support direct action and my brothers and sisters who are being held as political prisoners because of their involvement in direct action in the fight to preserve this earth and the animals that live on it. To Walter Bond and to all those being held as political prisoners, know that you are in our hearts, that you are not forgotten, that we will never forget you, and that we support you and stand by you. To all of those who may have seen this video and now you're thinking about getting involved in this movement, I encourage you to get involved, but do not dive in full bore. Get your feet wet, and over time make well thought out decisions and be prepared to live with the possible consequences, whatever they may or may not be. That's it. That's all I have to say. I'm going to try to go find a place to bed down for the night before it gets any darker. So, take care. Bye.